fantastic to have you here, Dave, all the way from Canada. You're our very first international guest on this podcast from Australia, though, but currently traveling Canada doing your workshops. So I'd love to hear a little bit more about that in a minute. But to start with, I'd really just love it. A lot of our listeners will know who you are. They might have even been to some of your workshops or seen you around promoting them, have a chat to you at conference, that kind of stuff. I'd love it if you could share a little bit about your business, where you are now and why you do what you do right now.
For sure. Yeah, thanks very much for having me along. It's pretty cool to be here all the way in Canada and be able to speak to you on Zoom and talk about a little bit about my journey anyway. Okay, where do we start? Well, we start with, I guess, I'm an old man now of 51, but back at uni, my degree was in human movement. And then I went on and did a diploma of education. And that second part, although it was just 1 year, and although it was to do with high school teaching, I think that it put me in good stead for doing what I'm doing now with teaching with myofascial cupping. So I started off doing human movement. And as far as my first experiences with interacting with people from sort of a health perspective was as a sports trainer throughout my time at uni. So I was doing sports training, which obviously incorporated massage, even though I wasn't a qualified massage therapist, but massage and warming up the boys on the table before football matches and so on. I had first aid. I was part of the Sports Medicine Australia membership of the association, so I was a member there. So again, having access, I guess, and exposure to other therapists who were massage therapists sometimes, but also sports trainers. So that was my first experience with touch.
Great.
I wasn't a qualified touch, if you know what I mean, as far as massage. It was just, rub downs and that sort of thing, and learning taping techniques, strapping, as we called it back then, with rigid tape. And obviously there's been changes in taping these days. There's still the rigid, but now there's the kinesiology style taping as well. So things have changed there. But so that was my first experience. After uni, I wanted to travel. So I went and did a summer camp experience in Minnesota in the US.
Oh, wow. And, fantastic.
My love back then, which is still now, is canoeing. So I was taking canoe expeditions out on the lakes around the very border to Canada, which was lots of fun. That was great. So had my time away, did that, had a great experience. Apart from sports training, I was also working at a local YMCA at a gym. And I really loved that experience, and I love what the Y stood for as well. So when I got back after my YMCA summer camp experience, the lady that was running that international program, who then became my wife, she was employed by the National YMCA to run the international programs. And at that stage, it was running at a loss. And the YMCA called the decision to actually cancel the international programs department.
Right.
So Rose and myself, we made a decision that we would take the risk. So James, you're in business and you understand that taking risks sometimes can freak you out, but I guess when you're early 20s, it doesn't freak you out as much. And you ain't got so much to sort of lose, I guess.
It shouldn't, maybe. Sometimes I think it still does, but...
Well, true. We made a bold decision to meet with the national director and the board, and said that basically we're really passionate about the Y. We'd love the Y to keep, sending people over onto summer camps in the States. So we worked out and negotiated a licensing agreement so we'd take over the YMCA programs out of Australia. And we developed that program to what finished up being... I was a CEO, and we had offices in Melbourne, Sydney, Brisbane, and Auckland. So it went from a tiny little husband and wife sort of scenario with some volunteers to this fully blown out, corporate sort of entity. And it was pretty tough by the end. So we ran that for a number of years, and we sold that company out to a British company, stayed on as CEO for 2 more years, and then burnt out. So even before I was 30, I was shot. Went too hard. It's just crazy. So I needed something else to sort of, I guess, fall back into. And at that particular time, and it's funny how things all happen, my mum got really sick with cancer, and my sisters and I decided that we would take her into my sister's house. So my next experience with massage was actually touch with my mum. So
Wow.
that was such a good experience for me because it brought me closer to mum, I guess, in some ways. And that special time for almost a year that she was at home before she went into a hospice. So mum passed away, and I was sort of going, what am I going to do now? What am I going to do? I've done the big sort of corporate-y stuff. Do I want to be down that road again? Do I want to, continue on as a CEO and progress down that pathway? And really, I didn't. I was looking for something else. I understood from my experiences with mum that to, I guess, have that sort of one-on-one situation is a really special thing. So that massage stuff really took hold of me. So then I went searching around for massage schools. So I finished up at MIMT, which is in Melbourne, under Graham de Goldie. Awesome course. Had a really great time. Got my remedial diploma, and then set up a company called Integrity Massage, sort of not named after mum, but the whole stuff about being sort of intimate and with someone, to be able to impart that sort of health and well-being onto someone.
Great.
So Integrity Massage was born from that, in Collins Street, and it was basically a corporate massage business. So I employed actually at that stage contracted other people, but we had a base in Collins Street. So the idea was that the corporate massage, the business model was corporate massage, making contact with lots of people, would feed directly into a clinical situation.
Yeah,
so that
great.
worked, and it was great. But something was yearning for the teaching side of myself. So I noticed while I just started in the industry of massage that there was kind of a gap, I guess, in the professional development side of things in the actual massage industry in Australia. Now that's certainly changed now. Back in those days, at best, there was individuals who were absolute experts at what they did. So they ran their own individual workshops, but no one had actually put together a business where we'd set up mutual relationships with different presenters of their own workshops.
Ah, right. Yes. Okay.
So basically the offering was to people like Stewie Hines, Michelle Vassallo, Stephen Goldstein. The basic premise was that it'd be a win-win situation. So I'd be helping to promote them and their workshops, and in return, we would do short seminars, which would be filmed. So there'd be a royalty back to the presenter as well. So it was a fair sort of relationship there. And they'd get promotion for their workshops as well. So that's kind of how that all evolved. So we'd finish up with repackaging product, if you like. So you'd have a seminar, we'd film it, you'd get a DVD out of it. And then after that came along the online learning platform stuff. So we were able to repackage the one product, if you like, into different things. It was a win-win for everyone. We had some great times. You asked me one of the questions. James is very organised. List of questions. And one of the questions was a funny question, but which we can get to later about our massage tables. But as far as great experiences, the first time I think we had Michelle Vassallo and Stewie Hines and myself over in Bali with an amazing bunch of massage therapists from Australia and Canada. And it was just a hoot, just one of the great highlights of what I was doing back then. But
how fantastic.
Yeah. So saw the gap in the market, and where it actually all started, and this is really cool because one of the things that I believe in life is that during your life, there are little crossroads and there are little opportunities that come up. And sometimes you get too scared to take them, or sometimes you miss them completely because your eyes are shut, right? Leon Chattow. Now, James, I know you're not a massage therapist, and some people may not know Leon Chattow, but he's like the guru of positional release, and now very much in the fascia world as well, like superhero sort of status,
Awesome.
As far as globally as an instructor. So I was looking for someone to possibly help launch the business that was a name. So Leon Chattow lower back pain conference in Melbourne at about the same time I was about to launch. So I thought, bugger it, I'm going to call him. Can he come and do a seminar for me? And graciously, with a little bit of pocket money, we managed to get Leon to come from, I don't know, it's probably the convention centre in Melbourne, to the Collide Theatre at RMIT, which filled with 190 people.
Wow.
As a starting point for Complementary Health Seminars. So that was, again, that was a real buzz moment for the business as well. But it only happened because I went out searching for it. And I listened to you and Alicia talk in your business mentoring, and you talk about those sorts of things where you just got to, you've got to search out opportunity or make things happen, right? So
yeah,
I searched out Leon. So that was, for me, that was a real buzz to be able to have him on board. So that was pretty amazing. Yeah, so that's how that all
fantastic.
sort of started.
And it's a fascinating story. Like the journey that you've been on, it's probably quite different to what a lot of massage therapists are at the place you've started. But then I guess what I find interesting is that you're kind of coming into the massage industry with a whole different skill set to what a lot of massage therapists would right at the start. And it complements your massage skills, complement the other skills that you've got to form this amazing business. And that actually is kind of what we want massage therapists to feel for everyone, is that the skills that they've got innately are then paired with the other skills that they might need to have for business or for other interests that they've got to produce something that is unique, something that's just them. And even if for most therapists it might focus in more on the actual manual therapy side of things that they're doing, it's still a perfect example of how your natural life experiences fit together with the skills that you learn to create that unique business. Can you share, like, where are you right now? What have you been doing today, and what are you doing over the next couple of days?
Okay, so I came over to Canada. I'm in Calgary at the moment. Over the years, I've developed friendships and relationships over here, and one of my old students and their family let me into their house, which is lovely.
Yeah,
They put up
great.
with me over here. I've been teaching for the last 2 days in Calgary to a lovely class of 34 students.
Fantastic.
It's been awesome. Yeah. And get some rest up tonight, and then on a road trip. So we're heading over to a place called Saskatoon, which is about 6 hours drive in the snow. It's just been snowing. It's black as off over here. It's just been crazy for the last 2.5 days. So I think we've had 30 centimeters of snow.
Wow.
So hopefully the road's all plowed all the way across to Saskatoon. I think it is now. We actually had the sun out tonight, which is just before I got to meet up with you. So it's been good. But I think that the weather's finally changing a little bit. So over there for a couple of, or a few days teaching, and I've got a few business meetings over there as well, because the stuff that I do with online in particular, the online learning platform, which is the chseducation.com platform, is promoted because it's online, right? So we can go global with that. It's promoted into different associations over here in Canada too. So that requires some maintenance on relationships and catching up with people and talking about what their needs are. So that'll take place over in Saskatoon as well, plus catching up with some buddies, some old buddies that I know from, from being in the industry for so many years. Yeah. So from there, another road trip, which is about, another 6 hours to Edmonton. And once again, teaching over there and again, catching up with people.
This is fantastic. And I love that you've got this business happening and happening really well, where you're able to travel, like internationally, traveling the world, doing this training and teaching, and then sort of backing that up with the online side of things so that you don't actually have the pressure of traveling every minute of every day of every year, but the two are fitting together really, really well. And you're absolutely right. I think online space is sometimes you hear people talking about it like it's this magical thing. You just produce an online course and all of a sudden you're going to have thousands of students. And it definitely doesn't work quite like that. We run most of our training online as well. And it's something where it's a fabulous way of presenting information to people. But you absolutely still need to have relationship in real world, in real life with people so they know who you are and they get to experience you in another way. So it's really great to see you doing that. How often do you head to Canada?
It's normally twice a year.
And you've been doing that for 7 or 8 years now.
Yeah. So, and again, that's a different story in itself, but it all started with the online learning platform in the very, very early days of Complementary Health. I set up a licensing agreement with an association in Alberta, here in Canada, in Edmonton. They didn't really have a professional development program going. So we did, I guess, what you would call a white label style exercise, where we had a royalty licensing agreement for sales. So they branded some of the products that we were I was producing with the online learning platform, plus DVDs. So that happened a number of years ago. Yeah.
Wow, that's fantastic. What a great opportunity. I love it because, again, what I'm hearing from you so often is that you've seen this opportunity, you've built a relationship with the right person. Yeah, you've had to take proactive steps to make all that happen. And it's about seeing the opportunity and then being in the right place to do something about it, and then actually doing those things, actually taking the action to get there. So that's really great. If you look back, because I know, like where you are right now, traveling Canada, doing the training, getting these rooms filled with therapists, absolutely being in a place where you love what you do and it's a great business.
Yeah.
It has taken time to get to that place. And I can guarantee anyone in business for that time knows that there's always challenges that come up. It's not always an easy journey. Is there something you can share about that might be the time you had your biggest challenge in business, or the biggest struggle time, or was it right at the start, or were there certain things that might have happened along the way?
So once again, thanks for the questions beforehand. So I've actually thought about this, and it's a pretty cool question, because it's an important question, and everyone would answer it in a different way, possibly.
Yeah.
But I see to where I am now, into the future and to the past. So there are 3 different challenges. The first one was taking that leap, like I talked about, as far as Leon Chatau, and just trying to get things up and running, and take the risk. But before I did that, I also did the planning. And there were 2 parts to that planning. One is what I would call a vision plan, and the other one is a more formal business plan. But that vision plan, which can be done in such fun ways, can be cutting out things out of newspapers and sticking them down on a big cardboard poster.
Sweet.
Which is the way I did it. And that then translates across to something that's more of a business plan, but still very fluid. And I've really got to stress that I think having a fluid business plan is really important, because it can tie you down. I've seen people who have stayed rigid, and in this industry and other industries as well, things change all the time. So you need to continually review and make it fluid. So that first step of Leon Chatau and setting that whole thing up, that was my first challenge. The second challenge, which is an ongoing challenge for me, particularly because of Australia being a small market, is that I've had to expand and wanted to expand, as we've talked about, out into the bigger lands, into North America and so on. And Europe will hopefully be the next step for me as of next year. That's sort of where I'm wanting to head to with that. But I'm doing it slowly. But the whole issue about having to reinvent, to innovate, and stay current, they're the 3 things as far as the ongoing cycle of my business. So to reinvent means that not just, branding, it's more about content. So to make sure that you're continually updating content, continually looking at new content that comes in and out of, I guess, fashion and that sort of thing, and to innovate. So some years ago, I started running workshops to Bali. Others are doing that now, which is great. But it was something that I saw as, to a point, trying to sort of trailblaze that and do something different.
Yeah, fantastic.
But the last one that I'm currently, my big challenge is exit strategy. And when some people hear you say exit strategy, they go, "Oh, where are you going tomorrow?" It's like, no, not tomorrow. I'm 51. At some stage, I'll be 75. I need an exit strategy. For me, that's a really big thing to start thinking about. And I've been thinking about it over the last couple of years. And it's going to take more time to think about how that exit strategy looks like at some stage. And as I said, it's not going to be next year. It's, could be decades down.
But it is an important thing to think about. And especially even for actual therapists doing manual work, it's probably
Absolutely.
even more important because as the body ages or you literally just use it a lot over time, there is a natural kind of upper limit to how long you can keep doing 30, 40 treatments a week if you're really busy. It's a fairly natural thing to have to draw back that physical labor side of things and thinking about what's going to happen next, whether it's actually exiting the business or transitioning into something that's a bit easier, or for yourself, like looking forward to, well, can I pass this on to someone, or do I get a successor and become just the owner of this thing? Or what? There's a heap of different options.
Mm.
But being aware of what those are really does help to make decisions in the now. Because as you move closer to that time, you don't want to get to the actual year where you turn 75 or whatever it is and you think, oh, I'm done. And then go, oh, what the hell? I've got nothing. I've got no way of exiting this nicely.
Absolutely.
You want to think about it beforehand. So that's great. Good advice.
Yeah, absolutely. It's an important part, and it drives you too, right? So it's an important driver to where you want to head to in the future.
Yeah, that's great. Now, did you have a third challenge, or was that number 3?
So the beginning, the ongoing, which is to innovate, and the third one is
the end
somehow, or just reinvent yourself at the very end. And like just the thought about not working, when I'm much older is I just love the challenge, right? I mean, it's in it. I just love it so much, and I love to be able to meet people. And you look at the beginning of my journey that I talked about, summer camp, and I just got the bug for travel. And here I am back, not far away from where I did my summer camp, amongst the lakes in Minnesota. So I love travel. I've really tried to do what I want to do with my life and career. Massage therapists in clinic, I think, feel the same way because they become very much empowered, but at the same time, when you do run your own business, you sort of live and die by the sword, right? So you're not in a position where you might be, for some therapists, that you're employed by a larger group of people. So, you've got to think on the run, you've got to be organized, and you take that risk on day in, day out. But as far as reinventing, innovating, etc., for someone who's more in clinic, and I still do treat, but I'm not treating as much as, many people that might be watching this. And I really think you've got to continually look at the way you're doing things. Now, I've met some incredible people along the journey. Some people might know that I run the conference for the Massage and Myotherapy Association. So I get in contact with all these wonderful people who are successful, including your wife.
Yeah.
And we had a panel this year with successful women in the industry, which was an awesome little project that we put together for the conference. And to hear how those women have been successful because they have continued to review and innovate. They just haven't stayed stagnant. And that's a really, really important part of it. So to stay motivated and to be able to have that mindset's a really, really important thing to have.
Yeah, that's fantastic. What about like for you in everything that you've done across all those different aspects of your business over all this time? Do you have specific things that you are proud of or that you look back on as this was a major achievement or a major turning point in what happened there?
No.
It's all been awesome or it's all just been flat?
I think, awesome in that I'm big on experience, right? So it can be a positive or a negative, but at the end of the day, a negative experience is something to be learnt. James, I really can't. There's just, it was interesting because you gave me the questions earlier on and I thought, I'm just going to jot some bits down. Okay, so what was I doing when I was, 19? Okay, I was at uni. And then from that point, I'm going, crikey. And I haven't mentioned, other bits and pieces which are kind of irrelevant to this industry, but there are other stuff that I've done as well. And at the same time, had an amazing opportunity to have a beautiful family as well, which at the end of the day means so much to me as well.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
And I miss them heaps when I travel. In fact, my 18-year-old daughter is sitting a double Year 12 exam today.
Wow.
So she's really happy that I'm in Canada because it means that I'm not on her back, that she's able to go through Year 12 exams, final exams without her dad around. So she's pretty happy, pretty stoked about it. So
that's great. There you go. Advantages in all sorts of different ways. That's great.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
that's nice. And I love it that even when you were then talking about the challenges or the things that might be negative, there's definitely learnings that come out of those for you. And I think that's a really important thing to focus in on as well. My daughter uses this phrase at school, even she brought it home. She says, there's no winners and losers, Dad. There's only winners and learners. Winners and learners. So you either win or you learn. And I'm like, that's fantastic, because there is always a learning to be taken from every experience that we have, the wins and the things that aren't wins, actually. We can learn from both of them. Do you have anything that you might say, this is my biggest learning over my journey, or the things that are the biggest learnings for you?
Look, in a general term, have belief in yourself, because along the way, you'll get knockers, and that knocking might come from up here as well. So it may not be just external knockers. So having having a good mindset really helps things along the way.
Yeah, fantastic. Do you have any particular ways that you keep your mindset in that positive frame?
None that I want to talk. A glass of wine. I love heading down your way to go surfing.
Great.
Salt water means a lot to me. So I'm really missing that over here at the moment. And my eldest daughter, who's 23, we've just been on Messenger today, and she's missing the water too. So we're going to go hit a wave together when I get back. So there's that sort of time out with family.
Yeah.
Special, like I have date night every week with Natalie, my wife. So that special one-on-one time there, I make time for family. It's, family is really important, and close friends is really important. So that probably doesn't answer your question, but being able to separate out business with other aspects of my life is an important part. And look, I flip and flop in and out of doing meditation, yoga, body balance, like all sorts of bits and pieces, but I'm terrible. I slip back into bad habits and then slap myself about and get back into it. So I'm not what's that lady who's the fitness Nazi?
Michelle Bridges or something?
I am not a Michelle Bridges. So if anyone's watching this, you're not going to get inspiration from me in that aspect. But I'm a trier, and I keep seeing myself falling back into bad habits.
But in a way, that actually is sort of inspirational, because you're obviously maintaining a healthy, positive mindset that's keeping you motivated and moving by having just more balance in your life. Like, you're not, I'm getting up at 5:30 a.m. and doing an hour of yoga and then an hour of meditation and then hitting the gym. And all those things are great for the people who do them. But for us mere mortals, sometimes it can look like I can't get to that level because there's so much dedication that's required. And to hear that you've had this amazing success, you're happy with your life, you're doing these things that you love, and literally you're maintaining that mindset because you enjoy your work, you enjoy your family, you're getting a balance in the different things that you do. I think that's actually kind of heartening. That's a great place to be. Good on you. That's great. Do you have anything that you would say for people who are just starting their journey, or specifically for massage therapists who are coming up? They might have just started their business recently, or maybe they have had one for a while, but they're kind of traveling through it in a business sense, finding some things tricky or challenging. What would you say for those people who are on that journey or right at the start? What would be your biggest pieces of advice for them?
Now, I've got to say, this is probably going to sound like I'm blowing smoke up your bum, James, but I've got to tell you, and I've got to tell everyone, whether it's with you guys or whatever, and there's good scope these days for massage therapists, but getting business knowledge is super important. And I honestly, genuinely say that. And you've heard a bit about my background. So I've had to learn on the run with that company that grew and grew and grew. And I had to call on the right people to bring them in to fill the gaps that I had. But the business side of things, I mean, how much business do we learn in undergrad? Like
next to nothing.
Hardly anything. Which is crazy. You think about some of the other degree courses in allied health where you've got, chiropractors, learning the 10-week rule and all those sorts of things. We're so much behind. So to take on some sort of business knowledge is important before you go into business, not just when you're in business, because if you're in business and you're needing to catch up a lot from the business side of things, you're setting yourself up to fail. So that's a really, really important point, that you need to make sure that you get yourself up to scratch on the business side of things for your own business. Yeah. And that business can be, as we know, there's a huge variety of options for you. Even as an employee, you should know what's going on, and you should be able to learn what's going on within a business too, because it's important. The next one would probably be, and I touched on it before, about vision planning, which I'm a real big one for. So to set out your vision for your business as well. And again, that's something that's kind of loose and informal that you can then, as required, translate that into a more of a business plan, or more of a formal business plan. We got the internet these days. There are templates for business plans all over the shop as a starting point. So you can always go there, but also that vision plan, like I talked about. Now, you don't maybe not get your clag out and a big poster and cut things out of newspapers anymore, like we used to do in the good old days, but just have some sort of idea. It can be a brainstorming session. That can be part of your vision plan.
But you could do it in a Pinterest board now online. Go pin a bunch of things, that kind of stuff. But it's about being creative, isn't it? Whatever creative looks like for you. Some people still do want to clag things together and get out colour textures, but it's about getting creative and finding that future that's going to compel you towards it so that you can stay motivated.
Absolutely. And the great analogy, James, is I remember when I first learnt my anatomy, and that's back at uni. I was the sucker who had the colouring anatomy book as a starting point.
Yes.
You know, when everyone else is using, the proper texts, that was my starting point. Of course, I had to translate across into sort of a bit deeper anatomy. But for me, as a starting point, it was the colours that really helped me out and getting that sort of stuff. So it's the same thing. You need to find out what's going to make you tick as far as that's concerned. Look, the last point that I would say is create small milestones along the way. So, but still having the vision. That will take the anxiety away. So if you can prepare yourself, it can be even monthly milestones to break things up. I think that's a really good piece of advice, because I know that sometimes it can be overwhelming for people who haven't started a business before. And if you can break it into smaller bits, then I reckon that's a really good thing to do as well.
Yeah, and you can track your progress a bit more easily too, because if you've got a big goal and it's going to take you 12 months or even more, 24, 36 months to get there, that's a long time to try and keep yourself motivated without really having feedback on whether you've done well or not, you know?
No,
so if you can break it down into months, it's like you can tick that off and say, yes, I've done this month. I know I'm 1/12 of the way there, or 1/24 or whatever it is. So yeah, it's a really great way to just keep stepping through the motivation. I love it. Now, you mentioned before you had a funny story about Bali. Do you want to slip that in? Because Bali actually seems like almost the opposite to Canada as far as weather and environment and that kind of distance from Australia. Like this is completely different kind of things. What were your Bali workshops about?
Yeah, but yeah, you're right. Bali weather seems a long way out from where I am now. Look, the Bali funny story is probably the only G-rated story, and I know you're looking for G rating on iTunes. So
that's right.
Yeah. So to start off the whole thing with the Bali retreats, to make it easier for people, it was pretty hard to travel over there with massage tables.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah. After Chappelle.
Yeah.
Unless you want a side business. No, that's going to get us out of G rating. I wanted to get them made. Now, as I mentioned earlier, I surf, and I love going to Bali to surf as well. So I kind of got a network of local friends, or second family, if you like. So they helped me out to find some locals that knew how to weld. Actually, if you could call it that after seeing the end result, but I think it was welding. So we had these massage tables made up. I had 12 tables made up. And they arrived in boxes, which looked very nice, nice cardboard boxes.
Great.
To our resort, where we've got a lovely meeting room. We still run them out of there too, at the Novotel in Benoa. And oh my God, we pulled them out of the boxes, and they were made for the height of Balinese, not Australians. So even the shortest Australians' feet were hanging off the edges of these things. So that was my funny story.
You need like a stool or something off the end of them all when the 6-foot white guy lies down.
And we've had some big guys, on these tables. So So anyway, so that was the funny story. But again, right? So funny story. I was embarrassed, but we learnt. So next time I have to get massage tables made, I'll make sure I give the specs specifically. before
And
we get
that's
it up.
such a Southeast Asian story too. Like honestly,
Yeah.
I think we talked about learnings you can take from stuff. And one of the learnings I've had from just doing anything in Southeast Asia is that you can't always be so connected to the rules. And
Uh-huh.
here
Yeah.
we just sort of set things up and everybody kind of follows rules, and it's a fairly structured lifestyle that we have. And when we take that mindset into a place like Bali, we
Mm.
find it just doesn't fit as
Yeah.
well. They just
Absolutely.
literally don't live their lives according to the same kind of structure that we have. And I think that's one of the great things about travel, is that it just broadens your experience to
Yeah.
understand how other people live and experience the world in different ways. So
No,
there's
for sure.
always learnings
For
to
sure.
take out of all of that stuff. Now, this actually, it would be perfect to drop in right now. Do you still do Bali workshops and retreats?
All right. So you want the second funny story, which I wasn't going to bring up, but we'd planned some early next year to do another Bali retreat, but unfortunately, the person that was looking after my massage tables went away to all places Canada, because she's married to a Canadian. It's all interconnected. Like, it's just crazy.
Yeah.
They got back 2 months later, and rats had got in to the room, and they ate the top off every massage table.
Oh, no.
So my short, my short Balinese massage tables no longer have any foam on them. So,
Wow.
yeah. So I put that on the back burner for the minute.
That's a good excuse to get bigger tables this time.
I think so. Yeah, yeah. So that's a work in progress. But it's good fun going over there and running retreats. So
Yeah.
I highly recommend it. And I think Sean Bruce has got something coming up next year as well. And Jeff Shearer, I think, has also been running some stuff in northern Bali.
Oh,
So,
fantastic.
to be able to get away and take yourself out of the comfort zone a little bit and do something out of Australia, I think that's great. Good investment. Good investment.
Yeah, fantastic. It's
Maybe
great.
you and Alicia should be doing a business course over in Bali too.
Well, we have thought about it, but we haven't got anything like that on the cards at the moment. But who knows, right? We love travel as well. And it is a really good place to be running retreats and stuff. And I guess there's a couple of things our listeners might take away from that, because we do have people that run retreats and run workshops for their clients. Lots of people do nice little health retreats, yoga retreats, those kind of things. And if you're not already going to Bali and you're one of those people, then Bali is it's easy to get to, it's relatively cheap, it's well known, safe, all that kind of stuff most of the time. But what about if people are interested in attending some of your stuff, Dave? Where can they find out more about whether it's overseas things or whether it's Australian happenings? What's the best way to learn more about what you're doing?
The website's all the dubs, comphs.com.au. Now that'll take you to the Australian website where we've got information about my workshops. And there's some pretty cool DVDs. There are DVDs there as well. But as far as the workshop is concerned, there's some video. We did a doco last year highlighting some of the work we're doing with burns patients on scar tissue.
That's right. I saw that.
Yeah. So that's we're pretty proud of that. It's Selena down in Hobart has been working on a bunch of patients that come out of the burns clinic at Royal Hobart Hospital. So we are at the moment in the process of putting together a very small clinical trial pilot, if you like, down there, because we're getting some amazing results with the techniques that I teach, the myofascial cupping techniques, which is now translated, by the way, Calgary, Free Hills Hospital as well. So speaking to the therapists here next, when I actually get back from Edmonton, they've found me on LinkedIn. So there's another thing we haven't talked about, but LinkedIn is a great place to get your business up and going. So they found me on LinkedIn. On LinkedIn, I have that burns patient documentary. So they've located what we're doing there as well, obviously putting in keywords. So they're super interested to see how the trial goes as well. So yeah, so if people are interested in doing cupping that's not in a traditional sense, and I totally respect the traditional sense of cupping, TCM sort of cupping, but this is musculoskeletal fascial based cupping. So we do mobilization techniques with the cups, and it's about fascia, it's about soft tissue release. So it's soft tissue release, not meridian based, and it works a treat, and we just get some really lovely results. So teaching in Australia next year, New Zealand, Canada at the moment. So yeah.
Fantastic. And maybe Bali. We'll see.
Maybe Bali if we can keep the rats away. We'll wait and see. Oh, no.
Nice. And if you're going on the Bali retreat, there's a height restriction. You've got to be 5 foot or under. Is that?
We didn't think of that. I don't know how many people we would have actually got for that.
No worries. Awesome to talk with you today, Dave. Thank you so much for making time out of your busy schedule while you're there in Canada in the freezing cold. I really, really appreciate having a chat to you, and I know our listeners are going to love it as well.
Okay, James. Thanks very much. And
all the best.
Appreciate the opportunity.
No worries. We'll see you later.